And welcome to the Startup Innovators podcast, where we look at new, hot, emerging technologies and companies. And I'm excited today. We've got Beck Besecker in the house, and we're going to hear a very cool story, particularly for those people that love home improvement, which is probably about a third of the people that I know. So, Beck, it's great to have you here. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Tim. I'm doing well. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks. Well, I'm really pumped to hear to talk about this today because, as we kind of talked pre-pod, like many of my friends and many of my friends' spouses, people are continually redesigning homes, they're buying property, apartments, and they're in that constant process of having to design things. And it's not such a simple thing as we know. The products are delivered to your homes. They're very expensive, large purchase items. They can damage things coming in. Sometimes you have to assemble them. And half the time, it seems like whatever you order, whether it's from Home Depot or Macy's or wherever, whether it's a couch or a chair or a cabinet, or a closet, you have to assemble it half the time. And then you don't like the way it looks. You have to disassemble it, provide the shipping home. And it is just an absolute nightmare. It's probably the number one thing, if you talk to my wife, that is problematic when you're going through this expensive process. And you have a solution that not only works today, but is kind of at the infancy of how this is going to change, I believe, as well, with 3D imaging for not just home improvement products, but all kind of products over time. And so I'm going to do a quick little bio to just kind of gear this up. So Beck and his brother have started multiple companies over the years. His brother Barry. Now I have to ask you a question. Beck, Barry, Bessinger, are there a father or a mother or other siblings that have a lot of B's in the family?
No, those are the only two. Those are the only two.
Okay. I thought maybe your two twins would their names would start with a B too.
Uh,
Okay, well, that's good. So Beck isn't just building another 3D visualization tool, but he's really shaping the way people are going to shop online for certain types of home goods, starting in the home improvement area for the reasons that we just kind of mentioned. The company is called 3D Cloud, formerly called Marxent. And today they have a variety of big brand clients that you've heard of, Macy's, Ashley's, Lowe's, and more, with operations in the United States and London. And Beck's uh, long game, I'm thinking, is to reimagine every product on the internet as an interactive 3D model where customers can inspect, configure, animate, and embed in their real space before they actually buy. I guess we could say it's kind of like building the plumbing for 3D commerce of the future, which I think is one of the largest tectonic shifts in how goods are going to be purchased online. I hope that's in the spirit of what you do,
no, it's
Beck.
really well said. Yeah, I love the plumbing. Right, it's not as sexy as the kind of the end user experience, but it's the hardest problem to solve, and is sort of a unlock for all these companies to take advantage of a great customer experience.
Well, they always say, look for the pain point with the client, as we talked about just a couple minutes ago. If you are almost everybody at some point is going to remodel a room or their house, or they're buying a spec property, or they're buying apartments, like real estate and home ownership is such a big part of what everybody does in this country. And that pain is enormous. Like I said, when you're buying a couch or a table or really anything that would go in, it's very expensive and it's got to be shipped from somewhere. And it's got to get into your house and into the room and up the stairs. And I've had my front door of my home, not a very inexpensive front door, San Francisco, beautiful stained glass that took a year to make. I've had things like that broken by these deliveries. And half the time you get the stuff, it's not only is it not assembled, you have to assemble it yourself. And we were talking about how I'd have my college level daughter. You can't read the instructions. You just have to look at a map, try to figure it out. And half the time, once you're done, you don't like it, you got to disassemble it and ship it back. And it is and then you got to arrange for all that to happen. And then you're back to ground zero again. And the process repeats ad infinitum. And it really is a significant pain that I think anybody who's had a couple decades of living have experienced multiple times over. So with that pain point in mind, would love to just get a little background on where did you and your brother get the idea from? What's the origin story look like?
Yep. So as I mentioned, that this is our third company together. We started, pretty much right out of college, working together, kind of the age of the dot com, and he's a computer science guy. My background is finance, marketing, sales, and so we're kind of two sides of the coin, if you will. And so we make for good partners. We start off building, go karts and tree houses way back when, and so this is kind of the adult version of that. the first company we started really informed kind of everything we did with 3D Cloud, which was this first company was if you ever like go to a grocery store and scan a loyalty card and you get offers based on your purchase history, that was all kind of embedded in the hardware of IBM and NCR in those days. So our first company was a cloud-based version of that promotion management system. So now if you go in and scan a loyalty card and get offers on the receipt that are tracking your history and giving you relevant products. So that was the cloud-based targeting platform that we built. And that's in like 50,000 stores worldwide now. And NCR bought us in the mid 2000s. And so we were like, okay, cloud-based content management. That's where, and yet back, we used to call it ASPs back then. Now it's called
Yeah.
SaaS, but whatever,
Application
monthly
service
billing, right?
providers.
And so this company really started because my brother's, big into gaming and 3D, and he's a, computer science guy. And he said, he just sort of observed like, hey, someday all this 3D stuff that we're doing in gaming will make its way into, everyday kind of, use cases. And we knew retail from the previous business. And I said, that sounds really interesting. I can imagine like if you started seeing products in 3D, like you're going to need a cloud-based content management for system for that. And that was the germ of the idea. And then we went to Dan Gilbert, who owns Rocket Companies. And he's a longtime friend, and kind of pitched the very beginning of an idea, which was 3D and e-commerce, and it's going to need an asset management system. And he said, I love it. And they invested $1 million pretty much right away. And then we said, let's go to work. And so we started testing. With the real challenge was like you really couldn't display anything on a browser, which of course this needed to be on, in any sort of high quality visual way. And everything looked kind of blocky and cartoony, kind of Minecraft, not
Hmm.
Minecraft, the idea that, pretty low resolution type experiences. And of course,
Not as good as Minecraft, I should say.
yeah, and these are products. This is stuff people take seriously, and the look and the feel and the brand is like a big deal. And there was, phew, I'm embarrassed to say, like, we ran so many campaigns, more like marketing campaigns using 3D. Heineken, we did shoes, we did calendars, we did posters, we did toys, did some stuff for Target, did some stuff, and we just created these that were almost like more gaming and marketing experiences. Like, hey, if you bought this notebook, you'd get a 3D game you can play on top of it using your phone. But we were using it to sort of test the ability of the experience to kind of get to a qual. And then finally in like 2016, 17, browsers and this technology called Babylon finally allowed us to do a little bit more in 3D that was closer to, still wasn't like photo real, but it was enough to represent the product. If it was, you're building a deck, right? Or the assembly is more important than the visuals at that point. And so, but that's where it started. And then at that point we said, okay, this home industry is interesting. There are a lot of categories that have that same kind of issue around content and configuration. And then of course, Dan Gilbert's, he has lots of companies in the home category. So it was sort of a natural, thing for us. And he was really excited about us focusing on the home. And then we did decking. And then we were like, okay, what else looks like this? Kitchen, bath, decking, furniture, office, storage, landscaping. And then, so there's this long list of, home categories that you can go into, but it really took probably 4 to 5 years to even make the technology possible. And then it took another 3 to 4 to 5 years to sort of convince the industry that this was going to be a better way to do things. And we were just laughing the other day. In the last 2 years, it's now coming back to us from clients who are saying, I don't want just an app. I want an asset management system for all my 3D projects, which of course was the vision. So now it's kind of professionalizing the way CRM did back in the mid 2000s. And so we're kind of past the proof point now and into kind of the growth
Yeah.
stage.
So let's say you're Macy's, for example, and they've got their home improvement section or their section with furnishings, for example. And I could see why it was not that big of a deal trying to sell a toy or a purse because this spatial fitting wasn't that relevant. Whereas if you're designing a room or a house or a deck or a patio, the spatial aspect is everything. And the cost of the things you're buying tend to be higher ticket
Yeah,
items, some
there are
of them
no
thousands of
mistake kind of
dollars.
yeah, don't make a mistake, exactly.
Yeah. So when you go to a Macy's, are you going to the suppliers, the makers of the furniture, and building a catalog there, and then be going to Macy's and say, "Hey, which products do you carry? We already have that in the asset management system." Or are you building something unique just for Macy's products, and they provide
That's
that to
great.
you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So it's a combination. So we'll go to somebody like a Macy's, who was a very early adopter in the space. They probably have 15,000 products in 3D all across their catalog. And initially it was like, how do we use this to make sure things are going to fit using like AR, and then expanded into room planning. And this is room planning the homeowners can do on their own, which is another
Hmm.
big, we were talking about COVID. Another big thread in this is that homeowners will do a lot more work than you expect that they'll do. They'll show up with, complete kitchens built, right?
Yeah.
And the tools aren't the tools aren't like the old CAD tools where you got to be trained. It's almost like a video game where you can drag and drop. It's very easy, and so anybody can use it. So then Macy's went into product configuration. Oh, that's a good. A lot of these products, like a Macy's or a Lazy Boy, when you do the math on, okay, I've got this frame, I've got these materials, I've got these wood species, I've got these pillows, I've got these fabrics. When you start to do the math on those, it could be hundreds of millions or billions of combinations. So if you try to represent those products in photography, you just can't. And
Yeah.
so 3D gives you the ability to show this like long tail. And so a good example with Macy's, for instance, is Lazy Boy and Bob's and other clients too, Raymore, where they sell sectionals and people want to make their sectional fit their space, but on their website they can only show like presets, so like a 3-piece, a 5-piece, a 7-piece. But if you go to the store and you say, "Can I have a 9-piece?" They say, "Sure, we could do that."
Yeah.
But but in 3D, you can give the tool to a customer and they can do it themselves. And so now you're kind of just moving more of the sales process into the customer's hands, what they want anyway,
Yeah.
right?
And I'm imagining the customer, in addition to be it just being like individual retail users, like let's say my wife and I, it's designers, it's builders, it's that whole ecosystem of people that you're contracting out as an individual and paying them to do something really special for you. I can't design a room, but I can hire a designer. And if they know what I want, they can put all these things together
Well, that's what's
and it makes
cool
them
is
look great.
well,
Yeah.
there's two pieces. This one is like at Lowe's, the kitchen planner that Lowe's has.
Yeah.
Uh, 95% of the users are homeowners. And I think between decking and kitchens, 500,000 people designed their own project last year. But 5% are trade professionals, but they make up about 20 to 30% of the project volume. So now the retail, you're like giving a tool to the marketplace where the homeowner and the trade professional can both use the exact same tool, where before they would have had to buy a professional like, CAD tool. And now
Yeah.
you're sort of
Right.
unlocking. And of course, if I'm a homeowner and I build something, a designer can receive that design, and you're 2 or 3 times more likely to buy if the homeowner starts first.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, that would make sense.
And then you made another point about, can you design? Well, now you don't have to. What we learned about homeowners is they know what they like when they see it.
Mhm.
But the issue is, like, they don't know the catalog like a way a professional designer. And so what you do is you bridge that with like inspirational photos. And you say, put in your floor plan, and then you pick the photo you like, almost like Pinterest, and
Mhm.
then it builds your kitchen in your room that matches that photo. And
That
so
is
it's kind of
amazing.
it's like an automated, and then you could say, okay, great. Well, this is mostly done. I want to move this here, or change that here, or change out the floor. So our tools don't really expect the consumer to be a kitchen designer. We just automate what a kitchen designer would do.
So, it seems to me like it would be a huge competitive disadvantage to not have that. So, if you go to Macy's and they don't have it, but then you go to Home Depot or Nordstrom's or, pick your big box player. As a retailer, I would focus on Macy's and not the other ones because you're completely all you're looking at a two-dimensional photographs of things versus actually building what you want. And as we
Think
all know when we
about
design something, yeah, until you get it into your house or you can visualize what it's actually going to look assembled, half the time you're going to return it.
Yeah, let's say you go to a DIY retailer and
Yeah.
you build, your bathroom, and now they have your floor plan in their systems. And now you got to do a kitchen. Like, where else are you going to go? You're going to go right back to the system that already has your floor plan. And so it is becoming more and more of where it's like, okay, the demand from homeowners is there, and the demand from pros are there. And also these retailers are getting more, they used to rely on like tools from manufacturers. Like if you bought flooring from this manufacturer, they might have a tool that comes with it, but
Yeah.
that manufacturer is going to be interested in only their outcomes, right? Where if the retailer owns the tool, they can have 10 different brands in there. And so we're seeing retailers sort of say, hey, we need to control this customer experience rather than, just outsource it to our retailer. So it has gone from, oh, this is a cool competitive advantage to this is just a utility you have to have.
Who are your target clients? Are they big box retailers? Are they design firms? Are they the manufacturers themselves? Or is it a little bit of everything? What does the ICP look like for
You
you
kind of
growing?
alluded to this sort of network effect, which we're still
Mhm.
very early in that space, but it's happening where it's like, okay, you sign a big retailer, and then the first thing you say is, who are your top 10 manufacturers? Then you call those manufacturers and you say, hey, do you want to be featured in this retailer's tool? Can you help subsidize the cost of the content? And then you take those 10 manufacturers you're working with and say, which retailers do you sell into besides one we're already talking about? And then they give you a
Right.
list of 10. And then you go call them, and then you just repeat this process of sort of building this
Right.
network effect. And then you do get to the point where you can show up and say, "Oh, hey, retailer, I already have 2,000 of your products, work with us." And you become kind of the de facto option because you save them, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so it's starting to have that kind of roll downhill effect between the catalogs, the manufacturers, and the retailers. But our target is, so retail, interestingly, while it's big, there aren't that many Home Depots and Lowe's, and there's three or four or five, right? And there's
Sure.
maybe 100 major. The biggest part of the market is really your local kitchen and bath design shops,
Yeah.
and there's probably 20,000 of those in the U.S. And
The
so
tile company and flooring company.
you got it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the goal is to get the software efficient enough that we
Yeah.
can offer it to those guys at a reasonable price. But for right now, we're largely a enterprise software company.
Well, I think it's exciting though when you've got such marquee names behind you now. It's got to make it a lot easier to go out and say, "Hey, these companies are doing this." I love products that are immediately demonstrable what the value is. And nothing's more demonstrable than something that's visual for human beings. And this is kind of the ultimate, I guess, virtual reality. My son, I just played a game with him. We were in a kitchen and it was unbelievable. That was more than just 3D visualization. You were actually visualizing as if actually there. But aside from that, I would think that the visual demonstration of what this can do is so powerful. When you
No,
go out to yeah, go
it's
ahead.
it's pretty sexy. Yeah, it's fun not to. My last company was more of like a targeted marketing software company, and nothing was. I mean, it was cool, but it wasn't this cool. Like, and so it is very fun to be in a space that if I'm at a cocktail party and somebody says, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "Oh, we do home design projects, software for home design projects." And they're like who? I'm like, "Oh, like the Lowe's decking planner." Oh, I just used that. And it happens all the time. And it's just fun to be in a space that you don't have to spend very much time, communicating the point. It's more about, is it secure? Can you scale? Is it extensible? How do you manage privacy and security and integration? So the questions are all kind of like how to do it, not like should you do it.
I'll tell you, if you ever came out to a party in San Francisco where people tend to talk about homes and wine,
Yeah.
expensive items, the big Victorian homes, I would say 75% of the people you would have a conversation with would immediately get this and have a personal story that would resonate with them. Probably a pain discussion, as I shared with you about my personal stories. And so I think that's really incredible.
Yeah, my wife and I, when we first got married, this is 27 years ago. We bought. I was like you. This Old House was my favorite like Sunday morning show, and
Yeah.
we bought a these Queen Anne Victorian that needed to be redone from top to bottom. I spent 7 years on my hands and knees refinishing floors and stained glass windows and building a kitchen. And I was always very like a woodworker, pretty handy. And so
Yeah.
there is an element of this that I'm building products that I use, right? I would use, or I wanted, right?
Well, it's also for anyone that's ever bought a home before, which is a lot of people, it's such a deeply emotional experience. Like designing your bathroom. That old saying that if you can survive a remodel with your marriage, it'll last forever. It's so emotional. And tools like this allow you to really kind of get in sync a little bit more and visualize what things are going to be like and have that positive emotional experience. One of our favorite shows was the Two Property Brothers up in Canada. That
Yeah,
show I
yeah.
love. And as we mentioned earlier, Love It or List It. And I love when the architects come in to particularly a home that's kind of a remodel, an older home, and they reimagine what it could look like, and then they show what it will look like in the 3D rendering, and you go, "Wow, that's incredible. It's never gonna look like that." Then they actually go ahead, they redesign the home 3 months, 4 months later, they bring you back into the home, and you're blown away at how close it actually looks to the 3D rendering.
You
Amazing.
said about we have a design staff on our team, and then we work with retailers who have their design staff. And I've witnessed, I don't know how many, there's so much anxiety over, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's something personal and in your home that the designers become really important relationships. They're really like confidence builders, right? It's like,
Yeah.
helping people, feel good about their decisions and then stewarding them all the way through the process. It's such a, you know, every once in a while somebody says, will this technology fully replace designers? And I just, there is so much of this where you're using a tool to create this human connection. And we see it in the stores where a customer's in says, I need a custom sectional. And if a sales guy pulls out a paper and a napkin and starts drawing, I mean, terrible, right? But if he pulls out his iPad and he says, oh, we have a new tool, let me show you how to, I mean,
Yeah.
think of the confidence that engenders, and the retailer looks, state of the art at the same time.
The other thing I love this idea of we're seeing this all over the world because of, the access of broadband. Everybody's basically connected to each other, if not through a PC, through their phone. This idea that you can do business all over the world and it's happening. And as we were kind of talking earlier, let's say you want to design something that's has a Scandinavian look or Italian look to it, right? A patio or a room or even a full house. Like I want the real deal. I want like somebody in Italy, somebody in Norway or Sweden. These tools would allow you to work with somebody over there and they could create and provide an opportunity for you to see what it's a close resemblance of what's really going to look like. And I would
On
think that's
top,
going to expand opportunities for people in different countries to work all over the world.
yeah, to take it even a step further, historically, if I had a CAD based desktop design tool and I wanted to communicate with you remotely, I could do that on a Zoom call and share my screen. But that's not the same as like actually giving the person in Italy access to the same tool that they can have access to the project that you just finished. They can create a copy of it, edit it, annotate it, and send it back. So now as a designer, I can work 24/7 because I can work like asynchronously with people. Here's all your projects. Give me your feedback. I don't have
Yeah,
to be on a call to do it. And so you're making the designers just, a lot more productive. We actually, one of our clients called Wix in the UK, they did this without our knowledge that because they could only design in store previously, and they had a big, PC tower with a graphics card, and now they can just go on their laptop in a browser. So they're actually using the tool to add store visits or home visits to their service. And so they can do the design right there in the space. They could get the measurement and do the design and show you in a couple of hours, like
love
why
that.
you're in their home. And like all this sort of unlocking of, once you get into the cloud and the browser, all these other things. A lot of our retailers, you won't believe this, they don't even have visibility into their pipeline
Oh
because
my
all those
gosh.
projects are saved on the desktop. Once it goes to the cloud, they can go, oh my gosh, we have 9,000 projects in flight. It's November. Do we want to offer some kind of incentive to finish it? Or you could do like, hey, I'm looking at Tim's projects and, he's great and talented and he's knocking out these $30,000 projects. And Beck takes forever and he's terrible and a big new project comes in, like, who do you send it to? Like, you could create
Yeah.
all these workflows and collaboration and optimization. And that's never been possible in this industry because everything was just locked to a desktop.
And then when you overlay that with AI, the ability to look at very large data sets and then start making recommendations and predictions. Your mind could just go kind of crazy. As we all know right now, you could do things in seconds that used to take you days or weeks to do now. And so
No,
that's gonna be incredible.
they used to take, like, on the desktop, if you wanted to render, like, you take the finished product and then you render it and it turns into a photograph.
Yeah.
And you did that on your desktop, you'd have to walk away from your desktop for 2 hours while it worked. In the cloud, it's instantaneous, because you just have resources. So all of a sudden, it's like all these things that took forever. Or before, you'd have to create a presentation like, oh, I got to copy this, put it in a PowerPoint, create a PDF. Now you just go boop, and it just creates your whole professional presentation in seconds.
We are living in a new age. So let me ask you, who would be against this? I mean, when you walk into the store to sell this now, are people like, I've been waiting for you to drop in my door for 10 years? Or like, who's against this? What's the rub?
So most of the time, people are like, thank God, we've been asking for this forever. Why is this taking so long? You will get the occasional, it's interesting, people who are new to the job, like a designer, they just jump on and go.
Yeah.
But for some designers where knowing the software was part of their qualification,
Yeah.
now it's easy. You can see them kind of like, gristle at the idea of like, oh, is this going to replace me?
Yeah.
Or, hey, why are you giving this to homeowners? Are they going to do it on their own? And then we have to show them the data and say, here's what happens. And instead of, 10 homeowners coming to you and two of them deciding to work with you, so the close rate's typically around 20%. These 10 people are going to go use the tools, and the 8 that submit a project, 7 of them are going to close.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
wouldn't you rather have that than,
Yeah.
a 20%, batting average?
Well, it also begs at that kind of this fundamental argument people are having today, which is, well, AI is going to replace my job, right? And the answer to that is no, AI is going to not replace your job, but somebody who's really proficient at AI will probably replace your job. So I would think it's never been easier today to make the counter to that objection because you could sit around and, like you said, worry about the gristle of I used to have this technical capability that was unique to me and now it's becoming more available to the public through these SaaS platforms. But for those that really want to grow in the future, they need to adapt that very early on and become a power user, and then the whole thing expands. You think about the reach for other clients, reach within the big retailers. What if you were to become now identified by a Macy or your local flooring person as, here's 3 people, here's recommendations of our priority picks of designers you should go to. And they can be so responsive, so quick, and they've got their portfolio and it's in 3D imaging. And you're like, I want to go with that person.
We've also imagined, like, right now it's a B2B, SaaS company, but like if you ask a homeowner, like, what do you really want? Well, what I really want is I want this place on the internet where I can go in and I can build my project with these assisted tools that make it easy for me. I get all this confidence about what I want. I share it with other people in the network. I get their feedback. My confidence grows. And then I say, please quote this. And you send it out to, people within a 30-mile radius of you. And you say, here's a complete bill of material. Like if you're a trade professional and you got a complete bill of material, not a survey,
Incredible.
and
Yeah.
you said, I'll build that for 20K and labor's 10K, and here's your quote. And by the way, here's some changes I would make. Like, just how much better like the experience would be than just like trying to find somebody on the yellow pages, right?
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, look, let's do a quick bullet run for anybody who watches on the companies. You've got employees in London and the United States. How many employees roughly? How big is the company?
120 exactly.
120. We were talking about funding, kind of collective funding over the years has been what, north of
About
40,
40
50
million.
million. That's okay. Incredible. So what's the big challenge that you face in the next, let's say, year or two? The next big growth hurdle for you guys?
So the biggest challenge we've faced to date is our value proposition is we are your one-stop shop for all things 3D in the home category, right? Well, you
Hmm.
can't really say that if you do one category, you only have one app type, right? So we've been going through all these investment curves of kitchen, bath, decking, furniture, office to build a portfolio so that somebody like a Lowe's would go, okay, you're obviously the leader in the space. And then, of
Yeah.
course, all the applications. So we've been through what I would call an inordinate number of J curves to kind of get to this point. We now feel like we've got the major product categories, and with kitchens being the most recent one, all of them are mature and getting product market fit. So now, and plus we're at that kind of 20 million, that's sort of that magic number where it's like, okay,
It's 20 to 100.
yeah, you're diversified from client, on multiple clients, that you're scaled. And so now the next stage is we only have 3 salespeople in the company.
Incredible.
And one of our magic little marketing tools at the bottom of our planners, it says powered by 3D Cloud, and that's where everybody finds us, right?
Yeah.
And so we're really lucky in that the product, being as visible it is, sort of speaks for itself. And so we really not, and of the entire 120 people, I think 7 people are in sales and marketing. And so
That's absolutely
we've
incredible.
really not built the go to market engine yet. And so I'd say that's the next thing, is sort of moving from kind of product and market fit and critical mass of clients into this sort of like, okay, now how do we commercialize this thing the right way going forward? And that's
How
something we'll probably,
large, realistically, revenue-wise, do you think this company could become over the, let's say, the next 4 or 5 years?
I mean, it's a crazy number, but the entire US home improvement space is $500 billion annually, which is nutty, right? To think about. And that's retail, housing,
Yeah.
labor, et cetera. So obviously we're a subset of that. But if you look at the design visualization space, I mean, you know, 700 million to a billion, in terms of
In revenue
scale. Hmm.
for this company.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, it's an
I mean, if you
incredible
look
story.
look online, if you, like Angie
Yeah.
online is a billion-dollar company, and it's a
Yeah.
homeowner trade marketplace. Like there's several examples of that some of the incumbents in this space that are like CAD tools, are $500 million companies. I
Yeah.
mean, there's
Wow. It's an incredible story because you waited for so long in developing this. And so much of life and success is timing. But yeah, again, like my father said, luck is when opportunity and preparation meet. You are prepared, the opportunity hits, and now it's in the public domain. Everybody knows about this kind of thing. Everybody wants these types of experiences. So hopefully we'll see that huge runway. That number blew me away. I'm so excited for you. I think it's really an amazing company. For anybody that is in the home improvement ecosystem, whether you're an individual that just wants to remodel your bathroom or your house, or you're buying rental property, you're a designer, you're a furniture provider, whatever it is. And I think that touches upon probably like 90% of every human being out there, at least in the United States. You've got to check out this company. Where's the best way to find information on the company, and what's the best way to reach out to you if someone wants to connect to talk about an opportunity together?
Sure. We're just at 3dcloud.com, and my email is beck at 3dcloud.com.
Okay, terrific. And there's another story behind this too, which is the entrepreneurial spirit that must exist. Because when I first did some research to have you on the pod, Beck, I noticed that you graduated in 2000, but the company started in 1999. So I think, wow, they probably start this in college. And then when you told me the story that you have 2 twins who are going to be building businesses themselves as soon as they get out of college. I think there is an entrepreneurial story and a set of principles and values behind that, which would possibly be for podcast number 2 to talk about that as you grow a bit larger.
Yeah, we can talk about, I saw a quote the other day about like everybody that you've met that's been successful, they're all a little bit like delusional about their abilities. Like they think they can accomplish more than seems reasonably possible, but they're right half of the time or some percentage of the time, and that's really what changes things. And so yeah, it's you've got to be a little bit ignorant and delusional, and then after that it's just you just keep on trying, right? And don't give up. That's pretty much the formula.
Steve Jobs referred it to as the reality distortion curve. And if you can bend that, you can achieve great things. He proved it. Elon Musk is proving it, and you're proving it in your own way in this huge marketplace. And it's been an absolute honor to have you on the podcast today. Thanks so
Great.
much.
Thank you, Tim.
Cheers. Thank you. The Startup Innovators podcast is provided by MatchStar Venture Search. If you're interested in any of our executive roles or need help sourcing world-class talent for your company, check out our website at matchstar.com.